ขอต้อนรับทุกท่านนะคะเข้าสู่การสัมมนาเชิงปฏิบัติการสำหรับหน่วยงานควบคุมหรือกำกับดูแลหน่วยงานของรัฐและหน่วยงานโครงสร้างพื้นฐานสัมพันธ์ทางสารสนเทศหรือ NCSA Cyber Clinic 2024 นะคะซึ่งครั้งนี้เป็นครั้งที่ 4 แล้วนะคะประจำปีงบประมาณพ.ศ. 2567 ค่ะจัดโดยสำนักวิชาการความมั่นคงปลอดภัยไซเบอร์แห่งชาติค่ะดิฉันนางสาวนัทธิตาโคชสิทธิ์และ
ดิฉันนางสาวชนิการชนรงค์ค่ะ
รับหน้าที่เป็นผู้ดำเนินรายการค่ะตามกำหนดการนะคะทุกท่านก็จะได้รับฟังการบรรยายในหัวข้อ CCAPAC Workshop Cybersecurity Trade-in Policymaking 2024 นะคะซึ่งวันนี้เราก็มีท่านวิทยากรนะคะที่จะมาอัปเดตความเคลื่อนไหวในวงการไซเบอร์ให้ทุกท่านได้รับฟังกันนะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของรายงานประจำปี 2023 ของ CCAPAC นะคะกล่าวถึงประเด็นหลักและข้อเสนอแนะในการปรับปรุงความยืดหยุ่นของห่วงโซ่อุปทานในภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกนะคะแล้วก็แนวทางในการเพิ่มความยืดหยุ่นและสิ่งที่ต้องตระหนักเพิ่มขึ้นเกี่ยวกับความเสี่ยงต่างๆนะคะช่วงนี้นะคะช่วงบรรยายเราก็จะได้รับเกียรติจากมิสลินเมย์แอนนะคะปัจจุบันท่านดำรงตำแหน่งเป็นผู้ประสานงานกลุ่มพันธมิตรเพื่อความมั่นคงปลอดภัยทางไซเบอร์ภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกค่ะ
And we are honored to have Ms. Liman as our speaker today, and she is founder Coalition for Cybersecurity in Asia Pacific and the Coalition for Cybersecurity in Asia Pacific or CCAPAC
ค่ะลำดับถัดไปนะคะก็ขออนุญาตท่านวิทยากรแล้วก็ตัวแทนจากหน่วยงานทุกท่านนะคะบันทึกภาพร่วมกันนะคะทางทีมงานพร้อมนะคะเดี๋ยวรบกวนเซตกล้องให้ด้วยนะคะ
Next, I would like to invite the speaker and responsibility from the respective agency to join us for a good photo. And please get ready and if possible, colleague and turn on the cameras for the photo season ready. Are you ready? Okay. Okay. 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, next 1 and 2 and 3. One more time and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
ค่ะในช่วงที่ท่านวิทยากรบรรยายนะคะหากท่านใดมีคำถามนะคะก็พิมพ์คำถามลงในช่องแชทได้เลยนะคะช่วงท้ายรายการช่วง Q&A นะคะเราจะมาตอบคำถามกับท่านวิทยากรด้วยกันค่ะเพื่อไม่ให้เป็นการเสียเวลานะคะเดี๋ยวขอเรียนเชิญทุกท่านพบกับวิทยากรลิมเมย์แอนได้เลยค่ะ
And during the lecture, in participants have questions, Ms. Liman can answer them right away. But this is in Thai. We will collect some questions to ask at the end of program. And today, NCSA is honored to have Ms. Liman as our great speaker. And this is great privilege to welcome her today. And please join me in welcome Ms. Liman.
Thank you very much to NCSA and to everybody for your time on this call. Today, the CCAPAC is very happy to share with you some information on supply chain cybersecurity. Some of the information is very timely because I will drop a note in the chat now. It is a newspaper article today from the newspaper in Singapore about supply chain continues to be under threat and under a lot of stress. So those of you who may not have the access to the newspaper, I'm going to attach the PDF for you to read. I think that it's very important for us to continue to look at cybersecurity for supply chains. So we are happy to share this with you. As the moderator has already shared, because there needs to be some time to take for translation of your questions. Please don't wait to the end of the session to ask your question. Please type in your question in Thai into the meeting group chat, and we can translate it. We can have the time to translate it. So please ask your questions now if you want also. All right. My colleague Christy will share the screen with you. Our report, our website is actually on CCAPAC.asia, and you can see that on the first click of the link, you will see our latest report. This report I am sharing is Critical Information Infrastructure and Supply Chain Security. This is our report from 2023. So it is last year's report, and it's focused on a risk-based approach towards ensuring supply chain resilience. We know that there's many concerns about supply chain risks and the challenges. So many people already know how much it would cost to ensure resilience of the supply chain. And any cyber attack on the supply chain usually costs many millions of US dollars to be correction. And the cost of the cyber attacks on supply chains are very expensive to address. There are three types of risks that we believe that are very important to address for supply chain risks. And we know that this is important in Asia Pacific because we had a survey on 2022 on the supply chain risk management. 97% of Asia Pacific respondents have stated, yes, we have been negatively impacted by cybersecurity breach in the supply chain. There are three strategic risk factors that we want to talk about: strategic risk, tactical risk, and operational risk. You can see the risks listed on the right side of the screen. Long-term risk, external factors, mega trends, and business model risks are all the strategic risks. This year, I know that it is the year which many countries have elections, and we are expecting quite a lot of political changes, including from Thailand, on the leadership. So these are mega trends and external long-term factors that are really concerning about supply chain risks, and it will impact supply chain risks also. Tactical risks are the second type of risk. We have medium-term transactional risk, project risk, and financial risk. These are all related to how you want to be running your business. And the operational risk on a day-to-day basis, how you want to include resilience, how do you want to improve your people, your systems and processes, and the compliance risk. All of these will factor into the idea of supply chain resilience. The next slide will show you the many countries that we profile inside our report. So this presentation that we have here, you can actually download the report on our website, and it will give you the case studies for Japan, for Australia, for New Zealand, for Korea, for Singapore, for IPEF, and for G7 also. We won't cover all of these case studies in this presentation because that's quite long, but I highly encourage you to read those case studies when you download. The download is free. You don't need to give any information. You can just click on the link and download it. The next slide will show you the 4 things that we realize are common approaches from all of these case studies. The first common approach, so we are looking at best practices. The first common approach is, number 1, to prioritize critical infrastructure and to build on existing critical infrastructure regulatory regime. This means that we do not assume that in the policy in your country that there isn't a focus on critical infrastructure. The assumption is that there are already existing critical infrastructure rules. How do you build more manageable and specific frameworks around these regimes. So don't change so many things, see what you can adjust. So that is the first commonality. The second commonality and the second best practice is that they want to establish guidelines to identify, assess, and manage the supply chain risks. This means that we must be developing guidance materials for everybody to understand some key principles. We need to make sure that we achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve. And we want to make sure that it is not just a one time we put some rules there, but it is iterative, meaning that we change and we update it as the time goes by. So we cannot just release the regulation and not change it. And the other establishing guidelines is to align and adopt international best practices in developing these materials, or develop them jointly with other countries which are very similar in the way that we are doing the critical infrastructure cybersecurity. The third commonality in approach is facilitating education and training. So invest in the upskill staff regularly so that we can capitalize on new solutions and implement the new operational risk mitigation measures. So one of the examples that I will now drop into again the chat is Singapore's critical infrastructure supply chain program, and this is at this paper that I've just dropped into the chat. It includes a cyber supply chain learning hub that can act as an information exchange platform for other cybersecurity stakeholders in the country. So you don't just do your education in your own company, but you connect with other cybersecurity stakeholders in the country also. And the fourth commonality in approach is encouraging international collaboration and capacity building. Thailand is part of ASEAN, so there's a lot of other collaboration platforms for sharing information, and also to make sure that cybersecurity in supply chains is a core part of the discussion. So there's many multilateral platforms like ASEAN, like APEC, like other bilateral discussions that you can have with other countries to encourage the collaboration, knowledge sharing, and capacity building. We feel that there are 4 types of measures and mechanisms that we want to suggest and to discuss with all of you to enhance supply chain resilience. The 4 mechanisms and measures are on this slide here. So you can see on infrastructure level, on the entity level, on the national and sector level, and on the global and regional level. I know that many of you are working for the national and government agencies, so you may want to consider the infrastructure level and also the national sector level. If you're working in the international agency for government, then global and regional level will be relevant for you. And if you're working on business relations within Thailand, then on the entity level, that would be very vendor-centric, so that would be relevant for you and your stakeholders. So let's go into each one of them separately. On the infrastructure level, we are looking at, and I'm going to go to the next slide, on the gray slide. On the infrastructure level, we think that there are 3 things that you may want to look at. The first is device and hardware. The second is software, and the third is cloud services. So on the infrastructure level, we want to look at maybe a suggestion to look at the devices and hardware to have trusted platforms, perhaps in a module as an example. So some examples that we have included inside our report are, for example, specialized tamper-resistant chips that verify device authenticity and integrity. This is to prevent any counterfeiting or any malicious software and hardware attacks. So the idea here is to increase the trust within the device and hardware level. Very similarly, for the software level, we can also be suggesting Secure Software Development Framework, SSDF, published by NIST, and also the Software Bill of Materials, or SBOM, which is a nested inventory, provides a standardized approach towards understanding what is inside the application. So this is the other side of the infrastructure level. On one level, which we covered before, the devices and the hardware. This one is on the actual software. When you are developing the software on supply chain, how can you make sure that it is secure and cyber safe? So that is the second. And the third approach is to make sure that for cloud services, that they all follow internationally recognized standards such as ISO 27000 series. Also, the Cloud Security Alliance has some other frameworks for assurance. So that is number one, infrastructure level. Remember, there are four. So this is the infrastructure level. On the entity level, and again, this is more focused on private sector, we encourage the private sector to adopt a technologically neutral and outcome-based approach towards the threat landscape. So we want to encourage entities always to provide more flexibility and innovation to implement solutions rather than to put in hard regulations, especially on the sector, on a organizational level. So perhaps it would be useful to provide guidance on key concepts. So some examples which many of you may have already heard of are zero trust architecture, vendor supply chain business continuity planning, and other sort of guidance. So you will notice none of these are regulations. The second suggestion we have on the entity level is to support regulation technology, which is also known as RegTech, and regulatory innovation. So some of the innovations can reduce time and cost for compliance and free up resources. In many instances, I believe that blockchains have now been used to develop new systems of tracking supply chains to make sure that it is tamper-proof. All of these logs are safe and secure, and there's always a mechanism to trace back if there's been any changes in the traceability and in the product origin. So this is on the second entity level. On the third level, for national and sector level, there are three things we notice about making sure that there's supply chain cybersecurity and critical infrastructure. Firstly, that we want to recommend that there's sector level intelligence and risk analysis that you will have access to. So you really want to make sure that you are able to see the entire risk for each of the sectors to make sure that you can oversee the strategic picture and coordinate across ministries. So that is very important that you are not only looking just at one sector, but also looking at many different sectors. The second and the third point are very similar: to support and empower the industry and co-create solutions. So many small and medium enterprises, they will really need support like subsidies to make sure that they can enhance their supply chain risk management capabilities. And also non-financial support for training and education would be very useful. At the same time, we also want to encourage collaboration like this meeting to collaborate with the private sector to share information and co-create some solutions to manage supply chain. So for example, some of our ACCA members, AWS, Cisco, Qualcomm, and Becton Dickinson, we have some examples here on the screen that you can perhaps get some examples of how there's been some innovation in supply chain solutions. AWS has a supply chain application that can be used to help entities develop supply chain visibility as well as generate forecasts. Cisco has a secure network analytics and actually was used against the SolarWinds supply chain attack from a few years ago. Qualcomm has a web platform that helps operators address supply chain ecosystem fragmentation and actually grab real-time data for reporting. And Becton Dickinson very specifically manages critical medical supply chains and delivery of core supply chains. So for them, for example, for COVID, they were one of the few people who had very good innovative solutions to increase supply chain resilience. The fourth and the last group that we can talk about is on the regional and global level for how to improve supply chain and critical infrastructure resilience. Firstly, harmonization and global best practices. It would be very useful if Thailand can consider making sure that always to double check against alignment for regulations against global best practices like the IPEF Supply Chain Agreement, the G7 Fundamental Elements for Third-Party Cyber Risk in the Financial Sector. And for capacity building, again, for CCAPAC, we are very happy to be collaborating with NCSA for this meeting and to share information on policies, for frameworks, on training. Our members are also very happy to do that. And some of my members are actually online in this call. So later on, I'm happy to actually pass some time to them to say good afternoon to all of you from where they are. We have 4 recommendations for governments, and these are the last four points that I will make before I turn the time back to everybody. The first recommendation is to foster resilience of cybersecurity and supply chain critical infrastructure through public-private collaboration. So I think in many instances, regulators and policymakers, we are quite used to making sure that, we want to have this regulation and everybody can just say, tick, 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 yes, we must comply with these rules. But we feel that now with increasing number of cyber threats, it's more important to focus on resilience. How can you always change and identify these risks to meet the security standards? But you need to make sure that these changes can be developed, can be done in a dynamic system. So that brings to the second point, which is to build dynamic systems that can rapidly adapt to all of the disruptions and the new technologies and the new threats that are coming in. So we see that this does demand greater integration between the public and private sectors to coordinate the intelligence, the funding, and the emergency response. So that is the first of our 4 recommendations. Our second recommendation is to encourage innovation and experimentation. We want to encourage everybody to balance security with innovation. I think that there's been more regulators very open to doing interesting things, such as suggesting sandboxes, for example, to be done with the regulations. So I think that this is one of the exciting things that has changed in the last few years. And we also would like to suggest that prescriptive regulations possibly are a little bit undermining industry efforts to use new technology. So we recommend do not use this technology. Allow the innovation to have experiments that may be successful. We really want to encourage an outcome-focused approach that will allow robust RegTech solutions that will allow for resilience to be built in. So that is the second recommendation. Our third recommendation is to take a very comprehensive approach to strengthen infrastructure resilience. Again, comprehensive approach to strengthen infrastructure resilience. We want to encourage really to focus on the infrastructure level. Please look at the adoption of critical hardware security capabilities like TPMs, and also look for opportunities to look at new capabilities like the SBOM, the software bill of materials, without setting any of these rules too early. We really want to encourage also secure software development frameworks and also to refer to internationally recognized standards for cloud security for in any sort of resilience that you want to put in place. So look at infrastructure, but also look at making sure that the standards are internationally recognized, and also look at the critical hardware security capabilities. And the fourth and last recommendation, before I turn the time back to NCSA for questions and answers, actually no, to our members who are on the call, our fourth recommendation is to take a comprehensive approach to strengthen the infrastructure resilience. Because the approach is not just one country, it's not just in a single location or a single nation. You can't do any of these strengthening of infrastructure resilience by yourself. We want to encourage regional cooperation and mechanisms to align standards and to share best practices. This is very important because we don't want to have one regulation and one standard in each country, because this fragmentation will increase the cost for businesses, for organizations, and it's very messy because it's very hard to keep track of everything at the same time. And this will reduce the resilience for many people and many organizations, because they may miss out on some regulations here and there, and it will be, in the first instance, very expensive to adhere to all of these regulations. But also, if they miss out one or two here and there, then it means that they are not as secure. So if we can have one good standard or a few good standards that we follow internationally, that would be very useful. We also want to finally encourage joint capacity building initiatives to empowering states who are nearby to each other to uplift cybersecurity together, to address vulnerabilities that could move across borders. This means that in many instances, some of the cybersecurity threats actually move across borders, and we want to make sure that there are opportunities to share information. How you want to share information maybe is not the important thing, but we need to have the mechanism share information so that the threat does not become viral and move across borders. That is the final recommendation out of 4 that we have. Ultimately, we feel that supply chain resilience is not just a technical process, which many of us are quite familiar with, but we need to have a very adaptive mindset. So we need to cooperate together to achieve this collective resilience together, to work with each other, to understand not just the threat, but also the threat within your country, within another country, and how we can work together. We encourage all of policymakers in the government to play a role to this collaboration, and we are really hoping that we ensure that CCAPAC will continue to support a paradigm for secure and resilient digital trade. The final slide will show you a little bit about, will show you our URL. So feel free to please click on it. If not, we are happy also to answer questions on this chat. You can also email me. I'm going to drop my email in CCAPAC at accesspartnership.com. You can email us here for any questions that you have. I'm going to pause here and see if any of my CCAPAC members are on the call as well. Are there any CCAPAC members? There's so many people on this call. AWS, Brian, are you on? Moderator, are you able to identify?
Okay, did you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. This is identify about this CCAPAC at accesspartnership.com here, this one, right?
Yeah, but we're looking for maybe, is there an AWS?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will take it right now.
Right. Brian, would you like to say? I do see you online. I'm not too sure whether you're available.
Yeah, that's right. Wait a minute for stop open it and show it right now, okay? Just like open it and show everyone about this website, right?
No. I wanted to pass the time to see if AWS who are online. I see Brian and Alan are online, but I don't know whether they are available. If not, Nice, would you like to say anything? Oh, Brian, you're there.
Okay.
So I have some CCAPAC members who are here. I wanted to give them the opportunity to greet all of you, and also to open up to see if they wanted to add anything to our presentation. So Brian, perhaps over to you in the first instance.
โอเคเดี๋ยวจะมีวิทยากรเข้ามาเพิ่มอีก1ท่านนะคะ เป็นพิเศษนะคะที่ทางคุณลิเมแอนเนี่ยได้เชิญมาเพิ่มอีก1ท่านนะคะมาให้ความรู้ในวันนี้ด้วยนะคะ ค่ะเดี๋ยวขอกราบเรียนเชิญนะคะ Okay, so we have two special guests from with Miss Liman to take him come here for the sharing about the knowledge and about the exchange together. Okay, let's start. Okay.
Thank you. Can we unmute Mr. Brian from AWS?
Okay, all right. Okay, wait a minute, please. Okay, please open the microphone, please. Still not? Okay, wait a minute, please. It's work right now? It's okay?
Brian, are you able to unmute yourself? You can't
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
Okay, let my team to unmute your microphone. Please wait a little bit.
So thank you very much. Well, we are getting the technical bit resolved. Some of the CCAPAC members who are online are Mr. Brian Fletcher, and I believe that Alan Young is also on the call, and also Miss Nice, who is from Qualcomm, is also online. Brian is based in Singapore, and I'm not too sure where Alan is based, and I'm assuming in Singapore as well. Miss Nice is based in Jakarta. So you can see that we are working internationally to make sure that we have good representation of cybersecurity policies from all over Asia. Still no, Brian? In the meantime, while we are waiting for the unmute button, we are happy to answer questions that you have. So please ask questions that you have.
Yes, me now we are unmute, and maybe you have to open it again. It's okay, right?
Brian, can you unmute your microphone from your side?
Because
So now,
Mr. Brian is the co-host right now, so I think it's work now. Please try it again. Okay. Mhm.
Okay, Brian says it's okay. We can move on. Brian, actually, we are moving on to questions and answers from the participants. So thank you so much, and sorry for the technical difficulties for this. We are happy to take questions from audience. So please feel free to ask us any questions that you would like to have on any of the issues that we have raised already. You feel free to ask your questions in Thai. We will do a very quick translation to your question if you have. Some of the things that we are going to be doing for our this year is that this year our report will be on cybersecurity and the risks from artificial intelligence and AI. So if you are looking for some information on that, please feel free to contact us. Again, our email is I've just sent it out in an email. You can email to us and we will give you the report once we are finished. We already have drafted the first draft, full draft already, and it's looking very good. So we are looking to release it at the Singapore International Cyber Week in October in Singapore. So if you are coming to Singapore, we are very happy to be meeting you also during the Singapore International Cyber Week. But if you would like to have the first look at the report, then please email us with your email and we will email you once we are finished with it. we are quite excited to share some of the findings that we have for cybersecurity risks for that are coming out from AI. All right, to Ms. Chanikan, we are happy to give you back the time. I was just going to say that there is no questions. For recommendation number 4, please give some examples of sharing capacity building that are happening in 2024. So one of the cybersecurity that we are information sharing that we are doing is exactly this session. We are in touch with NCSA to be giving more of these discussions, and we are also happy to brief you perhaps in October or November, when we release the AI cybersecurity paper for that, to have a capacity building sharing session. So that's one. Other examples of capacity building, you can arrange, if you need specific cybersecurity capacity building sharing session from our members, we are happy to arrange for you. I think Brian is also nodding his head. I think AWS is very happy to give cybersecurity training if you need to. Qualcomm also is very happy. I'm quite sure I'm speaking for Nice now to give cybersecurity training. We also have Cisco, who is also our member. Cisco also very happy to give cybersecurity training. You just need to tell us that you would like to participate. That you will. It's actually not we are not having regular training. We are just saying, if you need, please tell us what you want to have, and we arrange it for you. So that's how you can participate. Is for free, and it is really on what you need. We will make it for you. Okay, let me do a translation on the second.
Okay, we have to I have one questions. There is an explanation of cybersecurity about the transport and logistics of soft sector. This question, what is the safety in the of cybersecurity transport and logistics soft sector? Explaining.
As in, is the question what are the threats?
Yes, about the cybersecurity, like example, about the transportation or logistics sector.
Okay, so some of the risks that will happen are usually around the focus on the tracking of the system. So for example, if they know that this shipment is coming to you, then if they want to disrupt your supply chain, how can they disrupt your supply chain? They can change the location, or they can steal your items just by going into your system. So that is the impact that can come out. A lot of the risks are actually around your system risks. So for example, how do you input your system? How do you track your system when you are moving goods from one country to another country? When you are sharing the information at the port, how are you keeping that system secure? How are you making sure that the systems are all interconnected and can talk to each other? There's quite a lot of approaches that you can that there are some risks. There are a lot of risks that you can put into this system. Brian, I'm not too sure whether you can unmute yourself. Don't know whether you can. No, you still can't unmute yourself. So sorry. If not, I would ask Brian to also add this. There are also other things like baggage handling systems, and also if you can imagine a situation where you are at the port and there are key hard infrastructure like your crane systems. A lot of that actually are very important to keep secure. I hope that answers the question. We can also move to other mechanisms like operational technology. So for CCAPAC, our website, I'm gonna drop it into the Christy will drop it into the chat. We actually have a report on operational technology that also talks about things like flight systems, like train systems that need to be protected. So I think that that answers the question that just came in, which is explain more about cybersecurity for transportation and logistics sector. I think for mass rapid transit, there's not just a disruption problem that can happen, but also there's a lot of money that is involved. Imagine everybody who if you are in Thailand and if you're in Bangkok, you have the Rabbit card or the I know that the MRT system now it allows people to tap in with their credit card. So if you imagine the MRT and the BTS system, you can actually steal money from that. That's also really important. And of course, the disruption, if there is transportation challenges, if somebody were to hijack that system, what would happen? It would create quite a lot of chaos. And that can be it could be politically motivated or it could be financially motivated. So those are some of those cybersecurity policies that you want to be making sure that you protect the systems for the transport. On the question on how can CCAPAC help organizations align systems with evolving cybersecurity regulations and practice, I think this is a very good question. We can help by giving you, and this is what we have done, we have given free research to everybody to show the best practices in each of the countries for specific use cases. And also for cybersecurity regulations, I want to encourage you to email us and contact us. Usually, the cybersecurity experts in the companies who are part of CCAPAC, they will be on top of the latest cybersecurity regulations because for compliance reasons and for standards reasons, for ISO reasons, we will know about them. So for example, I'm part of a number of ISO and IEC committees, which are talking about cybersecurity. And also, I know that for Brian and his team also, they're always very in touch with the NIST in the US about a lot of the standards that are being coming out from there. So we can share that with you. Whether we can help you align your systems with these practices, I think we are happy to discuss this with you. I think that we never want to say we can help you do it because I think you know your systems and you know your country best, but we can help you understand what is the best practice and what are the regulations that are out in the open market. And we can then recommend which ones are the ones that you can pay attention to. Christy has dropped in the report on operational technology and cybersecurity. So please feel free to look at the transport and logistics systems. She's identified it on page 6 for all of you. All right. Thank you so much for your questions.
And one of the questions, like, can you explain more about the cybersecurity policy for transportation and logistics sector, such like MRT mass rapid transit, please?
Yes. So I have mentioned that we actually have an operational technology report for the transportation in particular. For it, transportation is considered critical infrastructure. It's also considered operational technology. So if you look at our report, and can you share the screen? Maybe you can share the screen. I'll get Christy to share the screen from our report on operational technologies. And you can see on page 6 that we actually deal with, on page 7 actually, we deal with the application of a traditional manufacturing. So if you're looking at manufacturing is not, actually let's go to page 6. If you look at page 6, we have a focus example here on transportation where some operational technology and case studies for baggage handling systems, for cranes in ports, for flight management systems, and for train signaling and control. So these are the areas which we believe that there will be a need for increased cybersecurity attention to be paid, because these are a little bit more vulnerable sections. And Brian is also responding in the chat that is really about where you want to focus your attention in terms of the critical information infrastructures. I think that I hopefully that answers some of the questions. Specific examples and specific points that we can pull out for the transportation and logistics sector are going to be very specific to what the country's setup is and the system itself. So I don't think that I can go into detail unless you want to share a little bit more about how your system is set up. But maybe that's a longer conversation. Telecommunication sector is another question I see in the chat. Again, very, very similar in terms of the systems and operationally what is at risk. What is at risk is the entire communication system going down, where you cannot even communicate with each other, and that will be quite disastrous. In many countries, in the first instance, and this is true for Thailand as well, telecommunications ownership is always limited. Foreign ownership is always limited to about 49%. There will never be, in the first instance, major requirements for, not major requirements. There will never be a majority stakeholder that can be owning telecommunications. So, but that is not cybersecurity. That is more like just national security. But related to cybersecurity, I think that there are certain standards that we want to make sure that we uphold. And what we would recommend is always for regulators to come up with a risk management approach it from a risk management perspective. We cannot tell you, oh, you must protect your telecommunications sector in this way. You must protect your train service this way. No, we don't know what is your risk appetite. How much risk can you take? So we want to be working definitely with you to understand that before we can actually give any sort of advice. So again, please feel free to email us if you want us to have a further conversation with you. Because he's muted, I can generally offer. Brian is free to talk to you, so you can always talk to Brian.
I'm so apologize for this mistakenly about the microphone is not loud. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I can speak for Brian.
This is really really interesting, and this is really amazing to have get this knowledge, about the method like the transportation and logistics sector. It's very interesting, like Mr. Brian saying, and and this is really very sad to cannot to open the microphone. So another questions maybe is clear now. It's okay, right? Mm-hmm. If have any some questions, can get the email like that, CCAPAC@assetspartnership.com, right? This is here to ask any question, right?
Yes, please feel free to contact us. There's also 2 more questions I want to address from Mr. Satanun, TTB, who asked about AI cybersecurity and updated guidelines. As I mentioned, we are going to release a report soon around this in October. So again, if you email us your email, we will keep you informed about our report. There are no real guidelines from the world. There are some standards that you may want to be paying attention to. There are risk management frameworks also from NIST that you may want to note. Whether or not they are appropriate for your context is going to be a big question. So we are again happy to discuss this with you. On the question from Mr. T about the cyber attack on the car dealer company system in the US, what can we learn about this? I'm not familiar about this, so I'm happy to do some research on this. Please email to us more information about this, and we see what we can draw out for you. Sometimes, in many instances for cybersecurity attacks, to help the investigators, some information is not shared publicly until the whole entire incident is finished. So I suspect we may be able to get some information, but my guess is that if the cyber attack is only a few days ago, the information is not public yet because they are doing investigations and they are trying to track down the attackers. All right. Okay, Brian has said that it's actually an incident on the supplier side of software as a service. Okay. Like I said, if you want more information, Brian is very available to answer all of your questions. All right, there's a comment that says some OT administrators believe that the systems are inherently secure. Yeah, okay, yes, please don't overlook removable media, insider threats. Absolutely. Some administrators also feel that they're very clever because they have removed the ability to access removable media, but there's usually some way or other that information can get passed. So insider threats are definitely a very big issue, especially if you have disgruntled employees who are not happy with you. That sometimes is a challenge. Thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate your time and your attention. CCAPAC is always very ready to be in discussion with you. For me in Singapore, for Christy in Singapore, for Brian in Singapore, I think we are always very happy to be in discussion with you on this. And we are also very happy to be traveling to Thailand. I myself just came back from Bangkok, so we are always around. Very happy to meet you in person if you would like to continue the discussion as well. I'm going to hand the time back to NCSA. Thank you so much for joining us in this cyber clinic.
หากท่านใดมีคำถามเพิ่มเติมนะคะ เดี๋ยวให้ฝากคำถามไว้ในแบบประเมินสอบถามความพึงพอใจได้เลยนะคะ ช่วงท้ายรายการเดี๋ยวจะให้เจ้าหน้าที่ขึ้น QR code ให้ค่ะ ค่ะ แล้วก็ในนามของสำนักงานสกมชนะคะ ต้องขอบพระคุณวิทยากรลิมเมแอนนะคะ ที่ให้เกียรติมาเป็นวิทยากรให้ความรู้บรรยายในวันนี้นะคะ ขอบพระคุณค่ะ
All right. On behalf of NCSA, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our speaker, Mrs. Liman and Mr. Brian and Mrs. Christy Sang, director. This is really very amazing to have to sharing about this knowledge. And so apologize for the sound. Maybe have mistakenly. The knowledge is shared is both interesting and highly important, and we will apply it to achieve the greatest benefits. And thank you so much.
เชิญพี่ประวิตรค่ะ
Thank you for May and Lim and Christy Sang. So I hope in the future we can work together and we have maybe we can have another session for Brian. Sorry about the
special one.
Okay.
We are happy to have a next session to discuss the new report on AI and cybersecurity. I think that there's going to be quite a lot of interest in that one.
Okay. Next time I will invite you to join with us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
ค่ะ แล้วก็ก่อนจะจากกันเช่นเคยนะคะ รบกวนทุกท่านช่วยทำแบบประเมินสอบถามความพึงพอใจนะคะ เดี๋ยวรบกวนเจ้าหน้าที่ขึ้นจอให้ด้วยค่ะ ค่ะ ก็อีกหนึ่งช่องทางนะคะ สามารถกดลิงก์ในช่องแชทได้เลยนะคะ ค่ะ แล้วก็ประชาสัมพันธ์เพิ่มเติมนะคะ QR Code LINE Open Chat นะคะ ไว้ติดตามข่าวสารและกิจกรรมใหม่ๆ จากสำนักวิชาการนะคะ ค่ะ
ค่ะก็ขอบคุณนะคะหน่วยงานทุกหน่วยงานนะคะทั้งหน่วยงาน CI และก็ regulator ทุกท่านนะคะที่มาเข้าร่วมเวิร์กช็อปแล้วก็สัมมนาในวันนี้ด้วยนะคะ
ค่ะสำหรับวันนี้นะคะ หากผิดพลาดประการใดต้องขออภัยไว้ณที่นี้ด้วยนะคะดิฉันนางสาวนัทกฤตาโคชศิษฐ์และ
นางสาวชนิการสนรงค์ค่ะ
ต้องขอลาทุกท่านไปก่อนนะคะ ขอบคุณ
ค่ะ
ค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ